Once upon a soccer field, there was a goalie named Mr. Wang. He was about as useful as a chocolate teapot when it came to stopping shots. But that didn't stop him from flaunting his imaginary skills to anyone who would listen, including a man named Mr. Jean, who was looking to recruit players for his team. Mr. Wang's career had hit rock bottom in recent times. He was even sent off the field once for biting an opponent's leg. To make matters worse, he once masqueraded as a woman and played on a female team. Oh, the shame. But Mr. Jean had a different plan for Mr. Wang. He didn't want him to play well, but rather to intentionally let the ball slip past him during matches. Mr. Wang was not having it, and rejected the offer. He promised Mr. Jean that his team wouldn't win a single shot against them. However, on match day, Mr. Wang let his guard down and caught one shot. He was so ecstatic that he completely forgot about the other 5 goals that sailed past him. Mr. Jean watched from the stands and laughed like a hyena at the spectacle. The opposing team's players praised Mr. Wang for his one save, but his own team didn't share their enthusiasm. He was kicked off the team and sank into a deep depression, not leaving his house for days. His best friend and teammate, Chang Wang, visited him and encouraged him to speak to the coach and get his position back. But the coach wasn't having it. He even replaced Mr. Wang with a dog. Can you believe it? Chang threatened to leave the team if Mr. Wang wasn't accepted back. But that didn't go well either. Like a pair of old socks, they were both thrown out of the team. On their way back home, they stopped at a red light and encountered a traffic racketeer who threw his veggies in the air and pretended to get hit by their car. They knew what was up and confronted him, even using his body to wipe bird poop off their windscreen. But their antics didn't go unnoticed. A young woman saw them and accused them of harassing the racketeer. They ended up behind bars, but to their surprise, Mr. Jean paid their bail and revealed that their earlier meeting was a test. Wang gets taken to meet Mr. Yin and Mr. Lai of Guangming Trust Fund, while Chang chills outside like a boss. These dudes tell Wang that he's got a grand uncle who was considered dead by the fam, and this long-lost uncle left behind a whopping 30 billion in inheritance just for him. But of course, there's a catch. The great-uncle has left a video recording for Wang, and he's got to spend 1 billion yen within a month, no donations or gifts or anything for other people, and he can't tell anyone about the challenge. Plus, there's a coward clause, but who cares about that, am I right? So, Wang accepts the challenge, and he goes to see the money with Chang. They're both so blown away by the amount of cash they almost fall over. But Mr. Jean is there to help, and he appoints his own accountant, Xia Zhu, to keep track of Wang's spending. Oh, and get this, Wang hires Xia Zhu just to get revenge on her for getting him and Chang arrested earlier. Classic. But here's where things get interesting. Wang and Chang leave the bank with bags of cash, and the security guard stops them. Wang doesn't even break a sweat though, he just offers to pay the guards the worth of presidential guards to work with him, and they agree. Boss moves Wang. So Wang and Chang head back to their team field, and he shares his plan to rent the whole team and another reputable team with the coach. The team thinks he's lost his marbles, and the coach even offers them money to go get checked for mental health. But Wang's not playing around, so he calls in an evacuator to drop a huge pile of money in front of the team. Now that's how you make a statement. A swarm of shiny cars pulls up, ready to take Wang and his team on a wild ride. Xia Zhu hops into the car with Wang, but he quickly learns that she's not interested in his cheesy pickup line, she's got a boyfriend. They pull up to a bougie hotel that only lets in members with fancy schmancy cards. But Wang's got a trick up his sleeve. He makes a deal with the manager that's so insane, he should probably be locked up in a loony bin. But it works, and they're living it up like kings for a whole month. During a fancy banquet, Wang tries to win over Xia Zhu again, but she's not biting. Instead, he announces that he's starting a new investment company run by Chang, who he thinks is too dumb to turn a profit. Hey, if you're gonna go broke, might as well do it in style. Wang's new hobby? Renting everything in sight for way too much money. And when he meets Xia Zhu's boyfriend, he's not deterred by the fact that she's taken, he just offers him a drink and a pile of cash. Boyfriend takes the drink, and Xia Zhu is left standing there with her mouth hanging open. Wang also funds some wild and wacky projects, knowing full well they'll flop. But he's not worried, he's got money to burn. And when he sees his staff, including Xia Zhu's ex, all gathered around, he can't help but feel like he's on top of the world. He even rents out an expensive golf field for the team to train on, and while he's out there, he runs into Mr. Yin and Mr. Lai. Wang invites them to lunch, but he's not exactly polite. In fact, he goes out of his way to insult them. But when one of them quotes a famous businessman, Mr. Lafitte, Wang's intrigued. He manages to convince Mr. Lafitte to come all the way to China for lunch, but things go south when Wang starts asking about his failed business ideas. Mr. Lafitte storms out, and Xia Zhu is seriously ticked off. She's not about to work for a company that calls her a black widow. But Wang smooths things over, telling her she's the mascot of his company. Now that's some serious smooth talk. Wang is still throwing cash around like it's confetti, living his best life, when he gets some news that his terrible investments are actually making him a fortune. He's so angry, he could spit fire like a dragon. Mr. Yin and Mr. Lai are having a grand old time, sipping tea and watching Wang fail at his own game. But Chang comes to his rescue, waking him up from a nightmare about his great-uncle, and introducing him to a man with one dodgy eye. Wang immediately throws money at the man, without even hearing his story, in the hope of making even more dough. Chang promises to set off fireworks when the idea takes off. Talk about explosive. Meanwhile, Xia Zhu is feeling down in the dumps, all alone in her apartment on her birthday, when her boyfriend shows up with a book idea that he wants Wang to fund. But Xia Zhu's not having any of it, and ends up smearing cake all over his face and kicking him out. She heads over to see Wang, and is surprised by a dazzling fireworks display. Wang sings her a birthday song, pretending he knew all along it was her special day. She's grateful, but tells him that they can't be together. But Wang won't take no for an answer. He puts Xia Zhu's picture up on billboards all over town, in a bid to win her heart. But this backfires, and she's bombarded with unwanted attention. She calls Wang to complain, and he invites her to a concert instead. On her way home in a taxi, the racketeer reappears, causing chaos on the streets. Xia Zhu finally sees that Wang's not to blame, and rushes back to him, saying she wants to get to know him better. They attend a concert together, where they both have a blast with her favorite singer. Afterwards, they play soccer with some kids in the park, and take a lovely evening stroll, holding hands and giggling like teenagers. Meanwhile, Mr. Yin and Mr. Lai have invited Xia Zhu's boyfriend over and revealed the secret of Wang's riches to him. They offer him cash to sabotage Wang's plans. But Wang's not to be deterred. He announces a plan to go bankrupt to the entire public, establishing the Fat Insurance program with the approval of Mr. Jin. He challenges the public to lose 1 kilogram of calories for thousands of yen, and anyone can sign up for just 1 yen. Mr. Yin and Mr. Lai are not impressed, but Mr. Jin reassures them that it's a legit business, not a charity. It's game day and the stadium is packed with 80% of fans cheering for Heng Tai. The team arrives in style via helicopters, but the coach ruins the grand entrance by vomiting from too much alcohol. As the match begins, Heng Tai takes the lead as Wang struggles to save shots. The opposite team's star player is given a red flag after Chang intentionally upsets him. Wang scolds his team for leaving everything to him during halftime, and they activate Plan B. Meanwhile, Xia Zhu spots her boyfriend in the crowd and goes to confront him. He tells her that Wang doesn't really love her, and is just using her to spend his money. He reveals his plan to sabotage Wang's plans, but Xia Zhu kicks him and runs to report to Mr. Jin. The match ends with Wang's team emerging as the victors, stopping Heng Tai from scoring 2 digits. The stadium cheers as Wang's team is presented with the real trophy. However, Wang's celebration is cut short when he receives news that Xia Zhu has been kidnapped. Wang confronts Mr. Yin and Mr. Lai, who confess that they told Xia Zhu's boyfriend everything but swear they didn't kidnap her. It turns out the kidnapper is actually Mr. Jin, who prepared a fake video of her boyfriend getting killed. Wang asks Mr. Jin for permission to use the money to free Xia Zhu, but he refuses. This is the third and final test Wang must pass before inheriting his great-uncle's wealth. Xia Zhu is convinced that Wang won't come to save her, but Mr. Jin has faith in him. Devastated, Wang decides to drown his sorrows in alcohol. As time runs out, Mr. Jin is disappointed. However, just as the kidnappers are leaving the building, Wang shows up on the staircase surrounded by guards. He tells the kidnapper to take his money and let Xia Zhu go. It turns out that Wang has passed the final test, and he and Xia Zhu get married and have a baby. They approach a charity foundation to donate all their wealth but decide to take out some money for the baby's needs. They spend a lot of time listing all the things the baby might need, like a diamond-encrusted pacifier and a designer diaper bag. Who said parenting was easy? If you enjoyed the video, then don't just sit there twiddling your thumbs. Let us know in the comments below. And if you want more of this epic content, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel.